Hey, 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 Laura J., author of Fully Committed, The Sacred Sojourn of Now, here with you to say I just had a frustrating conversation with a friend about natural law theory. And I was just informed that Dolores Cahill will be doing a presentation on December 3rd that Jennifer Hibbard told me about because she's flying over to the UK right now to have that meeting with Dolores and those who are also working towards a solution using natural law. And so I actually just wanted to point out that natural law is a system based on the close observation of human nature and intrinsic moral and ethical values independent of positive law, which are the laws enacted by a state or society. Aquinas argued that because human beings have reason as the intelligible spark of the divine image of God within, all human lives are sacred and of infinite value compared to any other object. Does that imply human lives are objects to be objectified and owned within a usufructory system that would like to fruct us, literally, which is the picking of ripe fruits or quarries, which is a rich source of which we are, as the individuated expressions of the grand overall designer that we all come from and are drawn into other worlds, such as what natural law is. Because when you see that the image of God is not all of God, and to say that reason is the intelligible spark of the divine image of God means that it is our intelligence that is what the spark of the Spirit is? I think not. The Spirit is definitely different and distinct from the spark of the heart. The Spirit is part of it, but neither one would be complete without the other, which is the point. If you only just focus on one aspect of a thing, then the whole thing cannot be present, for it will only be the hue of the whole spectrum. This is the problem. Natural law is where we are able to actually challenge the divine right of kings and become an alternative justification for the establishment of a social contract. Positive law and government in the form of classical republicanism, also known as civic republicanism or civic humanism. Humanism is where the transhumanism fix comes in. For trans is a prefix that goes on to the fixture, which is the human instead of the whole man. So if you're just the hue of the man, then you have to understand that logic and reason of science are given precedence and authority and power within the realm of those that wish to devour our energy. We, commonly, are men and women that can see when there is an enemy in our midst based on how we feel, if we are in our hearts, and can sense the resonance of truth of information, which is not just the dots that we thought we needed to connect, but the hearts that we actually start unifying with in our shared environment as well as further afield, when we can wield the power of our interconnectedness through actually calling ourselves present to be the change we seek in the world, where the Christ mass trees are not us being harvested at last. So I say, divine law is any body of law that is perceived to be transcendent to man-made law or secular law. It has been called the will of God or gods, that many martyrs have used as cause for their unwavering conviction to lead whichever campaign they were leading. Divine laws are noted for their apparent inflexibility, which makes interpretation a controversial issue that you can debate and argue the discourse about, or dogma, where there is a mother dog that has the title of mother, even though, sure, she won the position. But then there will be an imposition on my position if she is able to impose her will onto me, you see? Such is what the family has always been used for, which is why when we were warned it would be a nuclear war, we were not taught that the nuclear family model was part of the strategy, and how and why we have been systematically divided in our heads. And then instead of uniting in order to say, hey, this really is confusing and convoluting, so instead we just do some looting of other people's BS belief systems that invite papal bulls in with them through the holy see we didn't see because of the hidden hands of his story that is not our story, for it is only his who calls the shots, like the emperor with no clothes, who masqueraded and paraded his expensive attire because he was fooled, and all of those he hired went along with it because they didn't want to lose their position, for the thieves knew how to deceive them to believe that if they couldn't see it, their status was questionable, and they certainly didn't want to admit that they couldn't. So then when it was a child who was innocent, the inner sense was to say, hey, that dude is naked. Hey, whether he's a king or not, that's a naked foolishman that is running through the streets parading himself proudly while his junk wiggles and dangles on the streets, and everyone smiles horrified that their king is acting an absolute ass, not just a fool who at last steps out into the character arc of the major arcana told by the tarot. You see? It's all there for us. All the keys are there, and we need to connect in order to open the doors to see where we have been deceived to think that a man behind a screen was a big monster. When that man is not behind the screen, there's no one to empower the monster. So it seems that if we just stop messing around with two-dimensional counterfeit versions of reality, to stop inviting all of these supernatural things we cannot stand on and can't fully understand because it's not ours, we can't stand on that. We stand on what's real. And I've got an acronym to help heal the hurting hearts of those who have felt it was unsafe to be real in a world that has become so commercialized that it's better not to be yourselves than to pretend to be other than you are. The acronym, though, that I've created, I as the first person in my story, you as the second person in my story, but the first in yours, I the second in yours. You see the difference? For when we are moved into the third person, it's because we've invited an agent to speak for us, and then that's when the third party comes in and an affair begins. So others can then manage our affairs because we have forgotten how to be responsible household managers of our own selves. So what does it mean to be real? It means relatable, ethical, altruistic, and loving. At our core, we have to see that we may have been deceived to believe that we needed to go along with the river that is flowing towards a waterfall very quickly in a vessel that we are the captains on, which means we need to go down with the ship and make sure that every other soul is saved before our own, lest we be dishonorable. Well, the act of good faith is to actually realize the human race was a disaster because the hues of man are not the whole man, and so we've been fragmenting so we can fit into just one aspect of the man. When I say, let's just figure out how to actually be the whole man or woman, which is title of man, which is why the whole system is broken, and we simply are this experience of life that I am leading, where you are in my story because I am watching you, and now I'm in yours because of that too. Woohoo! If you don't have my book yet, I recommend you let me know and send me some moolah so that you can go on a journey inward with me as your guide. And I am working on my website now so that it's there with a click-through button to donate, and let me know you can't wait to actually do this together. A special practice that honors the whole of you. That's what we're going to do in December. Woohoo!